Here's the top 10 most common Facebook advertising mistakes that I see people make that keep them from becoming successful with Facebook advertising. All right, so the first one I want to talk about, and these aren't in any particular order, these aren't like most important to least important. They're all important to know. So make sure and listen to all of these. But the first one I want to touch on, a mistake that I see people make, is not getting to know Facebook's advertising policies. And the reason that that's important is because if you launch ads and they're breaking Facebook's ad policies, Facebook's just going to flag those ads and shut down your account, and it's difficult to get your account back, or even impossible. Like, it's because at that point, reaching out to you're not going to get in touch with the real person at Facebook. That doesn't exist. Really, all you can do is send emails and try and work it out through their email support, which nightmare. So you just don't want to go there. So familiarize yourself with Facebook's ad policies so that when you launch your ads, you don't run into any issues with them. And there is a little bit of tricky stuff in there. Like, this is one I didn't know, and I ran into it when I helped a client with what was sort of, and I do mean this, sort of a weight loss product. Anyways, we launched some ads that talked about like losing weight or something like that, and anyways, Facebook came back and was like, yo, you can't, that's against our policies. So do go familiarize yourself with the policies so you don't run into any issues with getting your account suspended or terminated or anything like that. All right, another one of the most common mistakes that I see, and this is definitely one of the most common ones, is not testing enough / giving up too soon. So Facebook advertising, like if you've been inside of Facebook Business Manager, inside of Facebook Ads Manager, you'll know that there's a lot going on in there. There's a lot of different options, a lot of different tools, a lot of different things you can click and change and settings. And Facebook is a beast. It is by far like the most powerful ad tool like the world's seen yet. And there's just so many things you can do with it and so many different specifics you can dive into. So when you're approaching this to learn and like launch Facebook ads for the first time, so many people launch a few ads, test a few times, doesn't work, and they give up. Like, when it comes to Facebook ads, it's just it's such a big beast. And that's not to overwhelm or say like you can't do Facebook ads in a very simplified manner. Like, you can, at its core, it is fairly simple. But when it's something that's brand new to you and it is a tool that has tons of tools inside of it and so many different options and settings to click, that you can't approach Facebook ads as just like, I'm going to try this 1 or 2 times. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like, it works. It's just a matter of if you figure out how to make it work for you or not. So this one's really just more of a mindset shift. If you want to learn Facebook ads and get to a point where you can successfully be using Facebook advertising, then you need to be willing to spend the amount of time testing and learning and failing and learning again until you get it right. So this leads me right into the next one, actually the next two, which have to do with not having enough money to spend on Facebook ads. Like I said, it's a learning process. You've got to put out some tests. You've got to be willing to have those fail. You've got to be willing to analyze and learn again and try again, and just be willing to do that until you actually get it to work. Because like I said, it works. It's just a matter of whether or not you can get it to work for you. So a part of that is you've got to have enough money to be able to spend to test and stuff like that. And I'm not going to put a dollar amount on that because that's different for everybody, right? Like, for some people, maybe they have 10 grand that very first time. They can be completely okay with putting that into Facebook advertising and just seeing how it goes. Maybe someone has 80 grand. For me, the very first time I went and touched Facebook ads, I was working full-time, in school full-time, so I didn't have a lot of money. But my very first time going into it, I was willing to spend $1,000 of my own dollars. That was also alongside of $1,000 that a client was putting in. So total there, like my first go at Facebook ads, I had 2 grand to play with, but 1,000 of that was my own. And to be more clear, really how that went down was the client was like, hey, here's $1,000, see if you can learn Facebook ads. I was like, cool, I'd love to learn. But then I looked at it as, I want a little bit more than $1,000 to play with to learn. So I was like, I'm gonna throw 1,000 of my own into it, and now I have $2,000 to play with to learn Facebook advertising. So, anyways, make sure you have enough money. Like $20. I mean, sure, maybe like spend $20, dip your toe in, see what it's like to set up an ad, run it, see if something happens. But especially if you're looking at this as legitimate business advertising for your business as a method to grow your business, then like $20, nah, like you need to have more than that, right? And let's just jump right into my next point here, which is so that one was that mistake to avoid is not having enough money overall to spend on just learning and doing Facebook advertising. This next one I want to talk about is not giving enough daily budget to your individual ad sets. And there's a couple different ways you kind of want to look at this, and I don't want to get too into this here, but let's just go through a quick example really fast. So let's say you're selling a $100 product, and let's say your profit margin on that product is $50. Now let's say you're launching an ad set and you're giving that ad set a daily budget of $5. Well, you're only giving Facebook $5 to work with and play with to find a person that will convert into a sale for you, when you have $50 to play with to break even on that sale, right? And we're not gonna the goal is not to break even, right? The goal is to remain profitable. So let's look at it this way. You could spend $40, make that $50 sale, and still have a $10 profit margin. So what you want to do with your ad set budgets is give them enough money each day for Facebook to go out and find sales that can convert profitably for you. And especially at the beginning when you're just testing and trying to find some conversions and all that, definitely at that point, open up your daily budget more so that you're giving Facebook, again, just enough room to breathe and to work and do its thing. If you're not giving it enough money, it's not going to be able to do that. And because in this example, we have a $50 profit margin, you can spend $40, $45 on your ad, on your daily budget, get a sale, and still have made a $5 profit. Now, obviously, we want to be working on like getting a sale for $5 and our profit margin is $45. But especially at the beginning, give it enough room to breathe so Facebook can start to find some conversions. And then what you want to do from there is start to optimize and start to scale. All right, another really common mistake I see is people not letting their ads run for a long enough amount of time. Their duration, they don't set the duration long enough. I recommend running your ads, especially if you're testing, right? If you're putting out some feelers, trying to get back some targeting that works, you should let those tests run for several days or several weeks. So whatever your ad budget is, instead of dumping that ad budget into, tests that run for just one day, I'd recommend spreading that ad budget out and running it across several days or several weeks, even several months, and that should get you better data back. The next common mistake that I want to talk about real fast is just people overcomplicating their targeting inside of Facebook. It can really just be as simple as this. If you're selling pots and pans for your kitchen, target people on Facebook that just target the interest cookware. See how that goes. For example, I do a lot of Kickstarter campaigns, and I guess let me put it this way. The very first time I started Facebook advertising, it was for Kickstarter campaigns. And the very first time I did it was when I just barely learned the basics of Facebook advertising. And so I went in there, and it was for a hammock strap. And so I went in there and I literally just targeted hammock. And then I targeted Kickstarter, and then I narrowed that to the hammock interest. And I just kept it that simple. And then I also looked at the other ones that popped up with hammock. It was like hammock and hammock camping. So I also targeted hammock camping. I just kept it that simple, and it worked. And keeping it that simple still works. And after that, as I started doing more Facebook advertising and learning more about Facebook advertising, I tried to experiment more with just including a lot more targeting, and I just started overcomplicating my targeting, and that started working against me. And so then I kind of had to just return to just keep this simple, because it is simple. If you're selling cookware, just target people on Facebook that are interested in cookware. Also, you can target other cookware companies that are pages on Facebook. So that's a mistake that I've made at points, is overcomplicating my targeting and then just realizing, all right, I just need to simplify this and make this much more simple. And with that said, let's dive into what are a little bit more complicated tools on Facebook. So, this is another mistake that I see, and it is a little bit more complicated, but it's not all that complicated. But this mistake that I see is people not learning to use custom audiences, lookalike audiences, and the Facebook pixel. So, real quick, just what those are and why you should use them. Um, Audiences, so basically, if you have a list of a big list of emails of say I'm selling services for growing an Instagram. Say I've got a bunch of emails of people that are interested in growing their Instagram. I can upload that list to Facebook. And then I can say to Facebook, look at all these emails, connect them to all the accounts that they're associated with on Facebook. Look at all the data of those people, and then go find me more people that are just like these people. And so Facebook can then grow me bigger audiences that are just like this Instagram list that I have. And then I can advertise to these bigger audiences that are interested in Instagram growth. And they're interested in Instagram growth because of that initial list that I provided to them, that I provided to Facebook, and then Facebook made a lookalike based off of that list. So that's what lookalike audiences are, and it's extremely powerful. And then the Facebook pixel, how that works, what that does is you just install that onto your website, which is super easy to do. And then the pixel tracks all of the visitors that come to your website and everything that they do. And then you can basically retarget and or create lookalike audiences based off of different criteria that your pixel tracks. For example, if you have people that come to your website, add your product to cart, and start the checkout, but never actually finish the checkout, you can then, because of your Facebook pixel, go in and say, hey, Facebook, I want you to look at all of the people that started the checkout but never finished, and I want to retarget them and send them another ad, basically getting them to finish up that initial checkout. And so you can also do things like people who just added to cart, people who visited a certain page. And then if you've been running videos, you can retarget people that have watched certain percentages of your videos and things like that. So like I said, I'm not going to go too far into the pixel. That's pretty much all I'm going to say about it. But there's other videos on my channel and just a lot of other information out there about the pixel. This one might be a little bit controversial, but if you hear me out through the end of it, I think you'll understand my point. And this common mistake that I see people make is hiring someone to do Facebook advertising for them instead of learning it and doing it themselves. And you may have heard me say this before. It's something I definitely believe and see happening right now, but social media is the easiest way to make money without actually knowing what you're doing. And let me explain that. There's a lot of companies that know they need to be using social media to help grow their companies, but they have no idea how to do social media stuff, and that's pretty much how they see it, is just like social media stuff, and they don't ever take the time to actually learn it, and then they don't take the time to do it. And so what they try and do, and makes complete sense, is just go hire someone else to do it for them. But what happens is when they go and hire someone to do it for them, they don't know enough about this social media stuff to know if they're hiring someone that actually knows how to get business results with social media. And getting business results with social media is very different than someone knowing how to run an Instagram account. Every kid, every person up to 35 right now knows how to run an Instagram account, but getting business results with an Instagram account is completely different. I know I'm talking about Instagram accounts, social media stuff, but Facebook ads is the exact same thing. Companies, instead of taking the time to learn and do it themselves, hire someone to do it, but they don't know if the person they're hiring actually knows what they're doing or not. But it's easy for that person that's being hired to say yes they do, because they know social media stuff, right? Because they've grown up in it and they do it and have one and post stuff to their friends. But again, that's very different than getting business results. So But this person here knows how to do social media, wants some money. This person here doesn't want to learn anything about social media, just wants to pay someone to do it. And so they form a partnership of sorts that just doesn't work out because this person doesn't actually know how to get business results with social media. And so the person that hired them eventually goes, hey, I spent this money, nothing's happened. I guess Facebook ads don't work. That's not the case at all. Facebook ads do work. Again, like I said, it's not about if they work, it's about if you learn how to make them work for you. And so my advice is to at least learn and do enough of Facebook ads yourself to know if you're hiring someone who actually knows what they're doing or not. And obviously, there is definitely a place for hiring someone to do advertising and marketing for you. And there are definitely people you can hire that do know what they're doing. But I'm just referring to a common mistake that I see, which is not wanting to put in the time and effort to learn it. And so you just end up hiring someone that says they know how and you don't know any better or any different, and ends up that they don't actually know how to get business results with Facebook ads or social media. And so now the company's just spent money wasted on no results, and now has a bitter taste in their mouth about how Facebook ads is or goes or works or doesn't work. Another really common problem that I see is people not understanding what their goals are or not paying attention to the data points that actually matter as far as achieving their goals. What I'm talking about, another way people talk about this, KPIs, key performance indicators. So have a very clear goal. No, is that sales? Like, are you trying to get people to purchase your product? Is it leads? Are you trying to get more leads for your business? What is your clear goal? And then you need to pay attention to the data points that matter for that goal and not get confused by all the other ones. So know what your key performance indicators actually should be and pay attention to just those, and don't pay attention to the other things that aren't actually factoring into whether or not you're achieving your goal. So for example, if you're selling a product on your website, you're driving traffic to your website, and your goal is to get more sales, what you need to be paying attention to, your KPI, the data point, is sales, is conversions, website purchases, not your cost per click, not how many adds to cart, not how many checkouts initiated. Strictly to see if your ad is working and making you money, you need to pay attention to conversions. Are you getting conversions, and are you getting them profitably? So conversions, website purchases, your ROAS, your return on ad spend, those are what you want to be paying attention to. Because what can happen is like one thing I'll see is, people will get caught up on, well, this one's getting so many ads to cart, if I just like scale it or if I tweak it a little bit, then people will start to purchase. And it's like, well, maybe, but probably not. Like, you can have an ad that's getting a ton of ads to cart and no purchases. You can have another ad that's your worst ad as far as ads to cart go, but it's your best ad as far as conversions go. And so that's your best performing ad. There's no point in paying attention to ads to cart. Like, if your goal is to get more purchases, your KPI, your key performance indicator, is then website purchases, conversions, and not ads to cart, not checkouts initiated, not those sorts of things. So really know which data points you need to be paying attention to, and only pay attention to those ones. All right, so the last mistake that I see people make that I want to share with you right now is focusing on your ad creative instead of your ad targeting. And here's why your targeting takes precedent over your creative. You can have the best ad creative in the world, and what I mean by creative is the image, the video, the carousel of images, the headline, and like the copy, the text of your ad. That's all your creative. So I see people focus on that, thinking that's what's going to be the most important thing to make their Facebook advertising work. But in reality, what comes before that, and what's more important before that, is to get your targeting right. Because if you have the best ad creative in the world, but you put it in front of an audience that's wrong, that doesn't care, that's not targeted well, that ad does absolutely nothing. But if you put that ad in front of the right audience, a well-targeted audience, then that ad will convert and work very well. But your first thing is to find audiences that convert and that work for you. And then once you have some of those audiences, now's the time to start testing a bunch of different ad creative and figuring out which ad creative is your most effective. Now, that's not to say you can, like you do at the beginning have to have at least decent enough ad creative to start to like get some results, right? So you have to have some sort of decent ad to begin with, but too many times people put all their focus there, all their resources there, and then go to run Facebook ads, and they haven't spent time with targeting and don't test enough targeting, and now they're just, again, stuck thinking, well, Facebook ads don't work. Not the case. They do work. You just have to figure out how to make them work for you. And so you've got to figure out targeting, and because you've got to figure out audience, you've got to figure out the right people to put your ad in front of. Once you find those audiences, then like I said, start testing different ad creative, and then you can really start to see differences in your ad creative, which creative performs better than the other. But if you're testing ad creative against audiences that are not targeted well, that just aren't irrelevant to your product, whatever you're advertising, then it doesn't matter what kind of creative, good, bad, it's just not going to work. So audiences, finding your targeting is the most important first, and then you can start to worry about ad creative.